Kia ora everybody, what's up? It is Robett. Welcome to Robett Live episode number 22, the world's first live daily business show on LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. The goal of the show is very simple: learn, share, and repeat. Today, I would like to introduce our guest is Michael Philpott. He is New Zealand's #1 speaking coach, executive speaking coach, investment pitch coach, and all sorts of weaponry when it comes to education and helping people get the Englands right in the public scenario. So I'm sure you could give me plenty of tips and stuff about all the stuff I do wrong. So welcome along, man. It's great to have you join us.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, so
good to be here.
I'm just going to read a thing out. So basically, you coach CEOs, celebrities, sales executives, tech giants, best-selling authors, professors, PhD, and startup founders to achieve outstanding results from their talks and pictures, which is very cool. So you're kind of the middleman to help, I guess, amplify the greatness in others to help them do what they do best. But before we get kicked off, I want to give you there's a thing which I use, which is called Crystal Knows. They don't pay for this endorsement. I find it very intriguing. I'll read out what it says about you and let me know out of 1 out of 10 how accurate this is. So this is what Crystal says about you, Michael. Michael tends to build trust quickly and value open, casual conversation. Michael is likely to be very social, trusting, and accepting of other people. Michael is likely seen as a great listener and makes new friends often, with the ability to open up and connect emotionally quicker than most people. How is that?
I'm impressed.
It's pretty good.
I'm super impressed. I've always liked Crystal Knows ever since it came out. Yeah,
that's a thing.
No, that's spot on.
Very, very cool. So, in a nutshell,
I might even take that and put it on my CV.
It's pretty good. I mean, I don't know how it does it. I just know it's tech.
Yeah. Well, it runs through the system of the Myers-Briggs personality type, so it creates an algorithm around it and picks up on all your writing that you've done.
Got it. Okay, unless you're top CEO and you get a whole team to write it for you, so it's not actually your personality; it's what's been crafted from a PR agency.
Yeah, well, there's always that. Yeah.
So I want to jump straight into it. You empower others to basically be their better them or whatever. What's the biggest challenge you find where someone can be super intellectual about a subject or whatever, but they're challenged with why they need to potentially hire you? What's the biggest reason people engage with you?
There are many. So I grill them for one. So if I empower them, it's coincidence more than consequence. My job is to just grill them, like make situations quite awkward, make it difficult, and bring out all of their bad behaviors that they don't want to have coming out on stage. People are engaging me. So if we go into the tech industry, as you said, highly technically astute people who struggle to communicate in a way that connects them with their audience. So for a lot of the tech type of stuff, it's, I'm working with people who are getting paid by the organization to travel around the world and give these talks. And then when it comes to the interaction, the engagement, the Q&A, they're lacking. Something's missing there. And the reason with that is they haven't been able to connect to their consumer, to the customer, to the end user, because they speak in their own internal language. And they're very comfortable speaking in that arena. So my job is to basically, my skill, I've often said, what's my skill and what I do? And it's I'd be ADHD, so I have a really short attention span. So if you're boring, I'll go, my eyes start glazing over, and I'm like, stop. Okay, stop there. I'm done. I'm dead. And the other one is I'm not a subject matter expert on the industry. That's kind of a key for me.
Go there, because that's probably a super strong weakness, because you don't actually care about the depth of it, because if they're standing in front of you, they've probably clearly got that. You're like, where's the narrative, where's the energy going, where's the moments that connect, and where are the punchlines? So it's actually probably, is it more of an emotive, like, is it a kind of a tactical strategic layer to find the gaps, and then you kind of go emotive to make those punch points? Is that kind of the strategy?
That's pretty much it. So, I mean, a lot of it is emotive. For me, it goes off feel. Am I connecting with this person? Is this resonating with me? And do I understand at a basic level, but given my amount of knowledge in your industry, do I understand what you're talking about? And if I don't, it's like, So a line I often use in my coaching is, so what I mean by that is. So they'll give me a really technical example, and I'll go, that's fine. You can use that as long as you follow it with what I mean by that is, and then just give a really simplified example of what you've just said.
Yeah.
So you've spoken to the technical audience, and then you've spoken to the non-technical, and you're respecting both.
Got it. And so your game plan will be, and either these, I imagine, if there are either speeches, because obviously you've done a bunch of stuff in the sort of TEDx space, which has been really successful with CEOs. So everyone that you're dealing with is accomplished, articulate, smart, knowledgeable, but they don't have that final piece to kind of craft it for a public facing audience. Is that kind of the thing? And then you'll kind of analyze that, find the gaps, and then try and build them up, but then come from both sides and do it. Is that kind of the goal? So they kind of come in with the shell of what they think they want the vehicle to be, and then you really sort of polish it up to be able to get out the door. Yeah.
Oftentimes they will have an idea. So definitely there's a level of confidence that people are coming to me with. My job isn't to train confidence and stuff like that. They come to me with a concept of an idea, and maybe it's a talk they've been giving for a while, but they want to reinvent it. And oftentimes it will be making it more powerful, looking at the storyline, how it goes, finding and identifying personalized stories that go with it to sort of break. So I remember mapping it out on a whiteboard one day, and it's kind of like just following an arc pattern of the high, where you take people on a high, and then when you're purposely bringing them down into a low, and then when you're popping them back up, and making sure that the time frame within those is set, so that you don't drop people too low for too long, and you don't have them on a high for too long either.
So it kind of sounds like what you do isn't necessarily speaker coaching. It's more like emotional curation of energy to be able to disperse at certain times. It's almost like a emotion storyteller just choosing to pick and drop, right?
Yeah. And at the same time, finding the core piece of what they're trying to achieve. So oftentimes, if a person comes to me with a new talk, it'll be, I filter it through two specific questions, and they are, what do you want to get from your talk? So that's the primary way most people would frame their talk, I've been given 15 or 45 minutes, and I would like to not make a fool of myself. I'd like to get a few key points across and pretty much represent my organization, professionally. And it's like, great, that's fantastic. Those are two really good questions, but those are all about you. Let's go to the most important question. What do you want people to do at the end of your talk? And they're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And it's like, cool, let's now make your entire talk, identify what that thing is, and then let's make your entire talk curated around how to get that outcome. And sometimes obtaining the outcome comes from the very beginning of the talk. You might gain the outcome right at the start, or you weave your way through to get the outcome at the end. And sometimes it can just be blatant stuff, such as, everyone pull out your phone right now. On the PowerPoint, there's an address. Type it into your phone. Cool, we got that out of the way. Put your phone back away in your pocket. Now I can give the rest of my talk. So it might be something that blatant, where the outcome is you want that URL to be typed in, and you want them to go to your website, or maybe it's something a little bit more, you need the time to sort of give some references and give some social proof and a bit of authority, and then you lead to the outcome. And which might be...
Yeah, got you. So what's the biggest mistake that you see speakers make that haven't had coaching yet? Like within snowboard world, there'd be like the shredders, and then there'd be the instructors. And what would happen is the instructors on the chairlift, every time they would go up, they couldn't help but look at everything that someone else was doing wrong, and they would nitpick it out. And my buddy's my best mate Nate, he's a builder. He'll walk into any room and he just looks up and he's like, oh yeah, that's off by this, off by that. Like sometimes when they're purists and experts, they can't help but totally have that analysis moment of, because that's their profession. For those that haven't had coaching or whatever, what's the biggest mistake that you see people make when it comes to either public speaking or pitching or doing any of those type of things?
Oh, there's a lot. So there's a lot there. So I'll back it up. I try not to be the instructor looking off to the side, because I still have to have empathy for the fact that everyone's doing things to the full degree of their capability, right? So, you know, and each person that I'm coaching has a different level. So I've got to meet them there without I've got to be their biggest advocate and at the same time,
the biggest hater.
Their biggest critic. Yeah, pretty much, you know. So it's a really fine line to walk. But
it's like a supportive wife, a supportive, blunt wife.
It is the brutal one. And I capture it on video too, so you never get to forget it. I think what I've seen recently, so, and this is coached, uncoached, what I've seen recently for even for some higher profile speakers are two key things that people aren't doing. And it's one is writing a script, just writing a script, you know? Stuff like that. I remember opening one and I said, right, the first thing we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to write a script, just a quick 30-second script around da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And they were like, someone said, but the professionals don't write scripts. And I'm like, sorry, what? It's like, the professionals, they don't write scripts, right? And it's like, so because you don't see them on stage with notes, you think that they don't write a script. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, do you think we let people on the TEDx stage just, you know, like just wing it? Whatever comes out will be fine. It's like, no. So there's this misconception that because you're a professional speaker and, you know, you're not seen with a script, that you never develop one. So that was the first thing I had to overcome with people, is like, you've got to write a script. And eventually, by the time you're seeing that well-honed, seasoned professional out there speaking, they've delivered that talk 20, 30, 40 times. It's the same talk time and time and time again, and they've refined it and made it beautiful. But what they can do with that script is they can then time it and get a time frame. So the second thing I keep seeing people doing is going over their time when they give a talk.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's because they didn't write a script. I mean, how can you? I went to an event recently, and
don't say who it is, so we don't want to get sued.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to an event. Okay, it was a while ago, and a person had a script this time, and it was like, oh, that's fantastic, you know. And by the time their time was up, they had 8 pages, and by the time their time was up, they were only through 4. So it was like they had twice the amount of time allocated, obviously, by their scripting. So they'd done the script part, they just hadn't done the second part, which was basically to grab their phone, it's got a timer on it, and just push the button and read it, and just go, oh, okay, this is my time, and I've gone over it by 10 minutes. It's like I now have to do the second piece, which people don't kind of like doing, and they're not skilled at, is if I have to take 10 minutes out of all this goodness that I just wrote, what am I going to cut? Yeah. And I think people hate that idea, you know, like I have to cut something. And it's like, I think this is the joy of my background with TED, is that what is your one idea worth spreading? It's one thing, and the whole talk is built around that one idea, that one core outcome. Whereas with a lot of talks, it's like, I have 20 different points and I need to talk about all of them. And it's like, no, you don't. You just need one clean, clear talk. With a body of ideas around it.
A few things to unpack there. I'm interested in. The first one is when you're talking about how the time you see them without those scripts, they've got it dialed. You're totally right. So I was listening to this interview with a comedian talking about how long it takes them to build their set, and they will literally craft up what they think, and they will literally go to 5-10 places a week, just trying it in small different rooms. Like this is all the way from like a Chris Tucker or to a Chappelle or whatever it is, and just pop up in random spots. And it would take them a year to do it. So by the time they've got to the thing, they've literally done it 150 to 200 times, and so that's before they actually film it. And they'll usually do it at the end of that tour too. So like they'll craft those moments, because obviously with timing and speaking, getting the timing right for those punches makes such a big difference. So when you know those emotional energy, so that's the first one. I think you're definitely right about the script too. So when I first started speaking, I was just like, stuff it, yeah, man, roll up, and it was just blah, whatever, right? And I had one slide, and I just did my thing, and I did one really, really big one, which I thought was ridiculously shit because I didn't structure it. And ever since that moment, I've always been like, all right, I've got a framework. I kind of want to go here and here. I'll put these little slides, and then I have my slides, so then I can like kind of at least, like I'll still go super wide, but at least I veer and I know which way I'm going to go, you know, and at least kind of joke about it for it. But you're definitely right with timing. and the scripts is so they don't get the time in that. So is what percentage of people have confidence issues that sort of come and see you? Because the average person's super scared of public speaking. I imagine if these are they're probably not that, right? They just want to really, act the part if they're the CEO, to actually act and look like one, or what's the kind of, it feels like the people you potentially coach aren't like, I need to do a speech to the local Rotary Club. It's kind of like, I've got a TED talk. It's probably a bit different, right?
Yeah. So the majority of the people I'm working with are paid to speak. So they're charging good money, which is why they're investing. They want to stand out and separate themselves from other speakers, which obviously they want to do a better talk. Sometimes they want to work on their marketing around it as well. They're a great speaker, and they want to figure out how to do more marketing, get more speaking gigs, and to raise the bar. So for New Zealand, I think the cap here is, we're pretty comfortable here, paying about $6,000 for a keynote, and then it kind of comes back down from there. Whereas in the US, you'd be looking at 15,000, at a base, at a smaller, lower level for a keynote. So they may be at that bracket of 1,000 to 1,500, and they want to start really building their way up to start charging more money. So you've got the paid to speak ones, and then outside of that, you have the CEOs, you've got the founders, you've got the people who are wanting to start becoming the face of the organization and actually stepping into that, but they want to be able to practice doing it and get comfortable and get rid of the cobwebs and make sure it's right and make sure the messaging is right, because they know that it's not worth taking the risk of getting up there and getting it wrong.
Oh yeah, it's really interesting chat, because I have 2 points on that. The first one is, I think you're exactly right about the speakers with how they're wanting to try and differentiate themselves, whatever. So I got a question to ask, and this is something that I talked to the crew that manage some of my stuff. Is I was thinking about it, if you're a speaker that's just kind of on the circuit, you've got your asset, and your asset is your story. And if you just try and bombard that as your message of the story, essentially it becomes non-scarce, because over a 5-year period, if you just have done the circuit and told your stories, within a 3 to 5 year period, most of the other people have shifted organizations. So by the time it comes to the 5th year, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard that person, right? And so in my opinion, the strategy I kind of said to it was, well, I don't want my asset to be a decreasing, in value. I think if you just do copy paste, you're actually at the mercy of someone else already seeing you on the other side, opposed to if you're like, cool, yeah, that's your story, fine, but this isn't about that. It's about the constant evolution and thinking of what's happening right now, which will always be evolving. So you could see the same thing. So from your side, I mean, it was just more actually just literally selfishly asking, how many people just run the asset of telling the story as the thing, or actually telling you topical relevant info for the industry that's real, so it becomes an increasing asset? Like, how many people's speaking careers are increasing asset?
So 2 answers, which ties to a story. The people who are in an industry where constant new information is coming in, then they're going to have to be adding what is the latest research on the subject. There will be, and the safer way to do that is to have your body, which is your body stays the same. That's the structure that you work within, and then you're just adding these new pieces. So your talk isn't brand new. It's a talk, but it's got added pieces, which means it gives you the comfort and the confidence to know that, I'm doing this, and this, which I've done many times, and then I'm going to add this new piece in, which is kind of like, oh, I'll see how this goes. But I have the confidence around it to feel comfortable to put this new slice in. And I say that from my one of my trainers who's Dr. Rich Allen. He speaks at conferences around the world on accelerated adult learning, and he gives a very similar presentation. And he said to me many times, he said, I'll give the similar presentation, but every now and then I'll just take a new piece and just slice it in. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it for me as well, because I mean, when you're doing the same thing, you kind of get bored. You run the risk of boredom. And for those seasoned professionals, you're getting more into the art of theatrically delivering a message, because you know what I mean? It's like, dude,
this is totally, I've never talked to anyone about this, because I like myself, I just do it. It's like fun, right? I'm just like, sweet, roll out. But yeah, how you're talking about it is literally how I kind of like approach that whole thing. So it's super. I'm really intrigued with that. That's how I guess it's validation that's how the smart people do it, which is good, you know. So yeah, it's crafting. It's art.
Yeah, there's another point to that too, which is I was speaking to one of the people I work with, and they said, "Oh, can I give that talk again?" And it was like, dude, of course you can. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to just hone that talk and get really good at it. And they were like, well, but it won't be authentic. It'll be, and it's like, well, or they've seen my talk on a video, or you know, on YouTube or something. And it's like, my answer to that was, do you own a CD from your favorite band? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, do you listen to it? And it's like, all the time. Great. If that band came to New Zealand, would you go and pay to see them live?
Eminem, J. Cole. Yep.
There you go. And it's like, but you've seen them, you listen to that same thing all the time, but there's a difference between seeing that person live and the emotion that comes with why you would go to a concert, right? And a speaker is the same. You're going there for the experience of the emotion that is drawn from being there in the flesh. So that's the kind of answer to, well, do I do the same talk over and over? And it's like, of course you do. It's because for them, it's that first time in the room with you.
Yeah, and just I think it's definitely right. One of the other things because I always get hit up with a bunch of people, like this is probably, I don't know, maybe four years ago, maybe a bit longer. Well, hey, come speak of this. I'm like, yeah, stuff it, you know, and then it just started to get a bit gnarly. I'm like, talk to these crew, and I literally just want, like, I hated email so much that I was like, and I came on board with the crew that took care of all that stuff, and I was just like, just email them, deal it, done, dialed. And then when they're talking about it, they literally asked me like, okay, so how do you want to price it? Whatever. I said, look, I don't really give a shit about that. All I'm saying is, what's like the most that someone charges there? And they're like, you know, they're like X. I was like, perfect. Add $1,000 to it, and that's how much I want. And they're like, what? And I was like, this is super simple. If I'm booking a conference and I see something and I know everyone, and then there's some dude I've never heard of who's more expensive, the only thing I'm going to say is like, who's that guy? And then the soundbar will say, and just tell them to Google me and look at the carnage, and if it's a good fit and sweet. And funnily enough, that single tactic has been the best ninja move ever, because it opens up this intrigue thing of like, you don't expect anyone that's booking a thing to know you really, unless you got like this mega profile. And it's been so funny because the amount of people that have, because it's like it's weird, because then it's almost like marketing them to yourself. But obviously I don't do it as my thing. It's just like a fun thing, so I don't need to do my emails. So yeah, it's interesting that the positioning's worked out.
I'm gonna steal that one. Done.
It's pretty net. Like they thought I was nuts, and I said, no, like this is my thing, because if I was on the other side, that just would make sense. I'm like, I know all these names, and there's this guy. Who is that dude? And then you tell them, and then the thing I'd say to them was like, look, he's super, like, he's definitely not for the faint of heart. He'll definitely challenge some thinking. But I suggest that you Google him, and if you think it might be a good fit for that room, then reach out, so they can kind of have like the sound gap of like, you know, doing it. And then this one, I had one friend of mine who was working for this one company, big business, and we've been friends, but she's never seen me like do my thing, right? And so we've been homies, and she goes into this meeting, and it's like the New Zealand MD and the head of marketing and all this stuff, and they're like, hey, you know, so really thinking about getting Robett and blah blah, you know, just really kick this thing off. And she was just so off it, like, oh, like he's just like a real dark. And then so literally I opened the keynote, and I was like, all right, cool. Could so-and-so just stand up, please? Made her stand up in front of 1,000 people and be like, all right, she said I was about to be shit, so I'm just going to do this thing for the next bit. And at the end, you just let me know who's right. And then we did the whole thing, crushed it, hugs and high fives. And it was pretty awesome, because sometimes you kind of go down that route. So I want to talk to you the next thing about if you deal with the top end of town, rad. If I work in a business, I hate public speaking. I have to do some presentation for the board or to my marketing manager or to whatever, say I'm within the business and I have to pitch up into my business, whether it's an idea or it's reports, whatever, what are kind of like a couple of key tips that you would offer for the young buck with not much confidence to actually be able to then go and do their thing within an organization?
Practice. It's so simple. It's just that, like, so I think across the board.
How? Like how?
So, yeah, okay. So let's make a package. 3 things. Write a script, time it, practice. That's it.
Practice to who? How?
So I remember way back in the day when because I still remember my first ever speeches and presentations that I ever did years and years ago. And I remember, the whole imagine the audience naked and that kind of rubbish. And so I just practiced everywhere. In front of the mirror was really cool. I really wanted to see my own physiology. I wanted to see how I was moving and becoming more comfortable and more purposeful with my movements and my gestures. But I think for that, it's just, so write the script, write your thoughts down. And what happens with the writing process is, I think if I write a script now, say for myself, I'd write about three scripts. The first one is just this rubbish. It's just like so many ideas all over the place. And then I go, oh, okay. And out of that, I've actually kind of come up with that's what I actually want to talk about there. So I'll take that and thin it down, and then I'll probably do the same again, and then I'll thin it again out. But what I've found is the most creative time I have is when I'm doing the dishes. So I've got that idea in my head, and then I just put it on paper, and then I leave the room, and I'll be doing something basic, physical, vacuuming, doing the dishes or something, and then bang, there it is. The idea just springs. And the trick is to run as fast as you can to that piece of paper and just smash it, write it out. So that's your script development type stuff. And then the make sure you time it. And then the practice to supportive people, as in to people who'll go, yeah, man, you're doing really well, family, friends, they're really good for that type of stuff.
There's something in that, right? I always go on tangents when my brain thinks of cool shit. Is there like a cloud-based resource that can give real-time feedback for other people's speeches, but by professionals?
No, not that I know of.
Because
I know that I want to build an app I have an app in mind that I would love to build, and there's someone working on it currently. It's a cool app anyway, but it's to help with speaking. But there are apps out there already which are VR, which give you an audience though, and I don't know if they give you feedback. So it gives you the VR audience, and the whole idea is to intimidate you and to track your heart rate and stuff like that, to see how to try and bring your heart rate down to become comfortable in front of that audience. And apparently you can put different audiences in the room, different size audiences, stuff like that. So I think there is stuff like that, but no one who's giving immediate like real feedback from professionals. No,
because I have an idea, and I'll feel free to. So I'm in this new idea phase where I'm like, if I say it out publicly first, at least I own the social IP in case anything ever happens, then I can come back to Flip and either sue somebody or get some free dinners out of it. So this is my thing.
Well, at least you get kudos for it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like IP DApps. That's all, IP DApps.
Yeah.
I could almost guarantee you there's there are probably millions of people who are scared shitless to be able to do these things, right? What if you had like a verified platform where it was like someone like, me, yourself, or a selection of professional coaches that could be like, cool, film yourself doing your speech, upload it up. We'll give you feedback like throughout it, done. And kind of like a process driven thing, and you pay per minute of the speaking.
Yeah.
So it's a pay as you go service model for real time feedback, but you can have a kind of community and stuff around it. Because I'm sure that you see the same thing day in, day out, but you could probably smack out Like if you did, hey, give me a 10-minute spiel, you could probably 5-minute spiel, you could probably smack the same thinking, right? Too short.
Yep.
15.
No, it's not the time frame. So, I think in that instance, if you were giving some generic feedback, it'd be okay. But a lot of the talks I'm working on are around the 7 to 18 minute mark, and some of those are 6 hours, six hours working on that talk.
So you can't really scale those creativity.
Well, not for me. So my other superpower is I'm a perfectionist in my own world, which means that I can't just give that kind of like, oh, just do this, and this, and it'll be okay. I do the that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very it becomes,
level. I get it.
Yeah. So scalability of what I do has been a topic of concern. How do you scale? And it's like, well, you don't, not in that way.
Yeah. Do you think, I've been thinking about this, about the creative industry. Can you scale creativity?
I don't think so in this respect.
Yeah.
Not for me, anyway.
No, and then it puts.
I think that you can build an app around it, something that would benefit, but you go, you know what it's for. It's created because your best work is over here. This is my best work is over here, and the app is over here where I've gone. This is my gift. I know it. This will really help a whole lot of people, and it's the best that I can create for people that need it, and it will be of value to them. But
so when you're talking about no, go for it. Yeah, when they're talking about training, right? So are you a fan of when you're talking about the script? Do you think people should write down scripts word for word and read them, or topics and talk around? Because this is one of the things I get it when you craft it up in text, like, oh, this sounds great. I personally think it is so shithouse when it literally, you can feel them reading. It doesn't feel like they're actually even talking with you or at you. Maybe that's just me personally, but what's your sort of take on, is that good or the bad? Are they just doing it wrong? Should they go bullet points and talk around it? Or should it be, are you a fan of like word by word, this is what you say and this is how to say it?
Word for word.
Really?
Yeah. So I say that. How do you do word for word?
Every time I do it, it's shithouse. And maybe they just haven't practiced enough. Maybe you are right, but they haven't practiced enough. Maybe. Yeah. So the idea is I have to start word for word. So I'll give you a little bit of background on why I say that with such conviction. I spent years and years and years working for an organization called Full On, and we ran a intensive one-day personal development program for the American Ambassador program, which came through New Zealand. And we were speakers for, we were doing 20-minute slots on personal development, the above and below the line type of stuff, and the value of choice and comfort zone talks and stuff like that. So when we practiced, we would have 6 of our team sitting in the audience, and they would have a form, and it had key things that they were looking for within it, and they would be listening out for exact words that you had to use and hit the word on the mark. You were allowed to build your personal story around the presentation. That's where you owned that piece, but there were markers along the way that you had to say. And they would sit there, 6 of them in an audience of 100 and something students, and they would just be like, and then at the end, you'd finish your thing and you'd be like, woohoo! And then you'd walk outside and all 6 would just come straight outside and go, how do you think you went? And you would go, well, I think I did da-da-da. And then they'd go, cool, nice, any areas for improvement? And they'd tick their ones off if you didn't sort of hit those. And then they go, okay, here are the things you didn't do. Blah, 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 blah. This word here, you used it 3 times in such and such, whereas you should have used it once. Wow.
So I grew up in a really
super granular
environment. Yeah, super granular. So I grew up in that. So when I work with people, I do the same thing. So what I'm looking for is intention in words. So I don't know what a person's going to put out if they just do bullet points, as in, oh, they just went on a random over there and they actually totally insulted a whole thing over there. And it's like the people I'm working with can't do that. It's like if there is a risk of accidentally insulting, then I need it to come out in the scripting. But with the scripting as well, I learn a lot about that person, how they think, how they feel, how they process information. So we start with a script and then we work it into memory. And then as the script develops and then we build the slide deck with it, the script will change because they'll start becoming really familiar with their content and they'll go, that doesn't feel right. And I'll go, yeah, no, it feels awful. Change it. And what we do is we start to humanize it as we go through. So it starts off robotic as this download of all of this information into a script. And then because it's all seated, we're all seated. And then we get into standing up and actually presenting. And it's like, oh, that doesn't feel like me. And it's like, cool. So what would you say? And it's like, well, I'd say da-da-da. I'm like, write that down now. Write it down. So we end up going through and redeveloping the script as we go and we build the slide deck with it. And then it comes down into memory peg bullet points. So from there, they then transition it into another part of their brain where it's just like, okay, this slide tells me this body of information, but I know what I'm saying within that body of information. It's not chance. I know. It's not scripted anymore. Now you're allowed to go off a little bit, but you stay within a sphere of what you want to talk about. You're not kind of going, well, because that's where you end up going over time.
Well, I think that's how I've seen a bunch of like hater stuff in politics or whatever do cut-ups of other people, and even within politics, especially I've seen one from a friend of mine, and they basically just like took all the R's and ums and comboed it together, and then they put that out and be like, do you want this as your leader? And I was like, dude, that's some whack shit, man. Like, stuff that.
It's pretty brutal, yeah.
So, but you kind of watch out for that, right? But so kind of, I guess, more of a practical business question. How do you scale that for yourself? Because it sounds like you must only deal with a small amount of people and just go super deep, right? Like you're kind of like the top 1%, and you craft, like you're dealing with probably companies that are dealing with, tens of millions of dollars and whatever, right? Like kind of big chunky stuff. It's probably in that space. So I guess how do you kind of share learning for others around that? Can you, or is it so one-on-one bespoke because that's what you kind of need?
So I've to do that, because the scaling is hard, right? So you're right, I do work, I limit to about 6 people at a time that I'm working with, and that's mostly because I can only hold 6 unique talks in my head and hold them really well.
And so speech. So if you got 6, the crafting, the narratives, like you kind of like 6 different scripts almost. So like you've got 6 different simultaneously. You're the director. You're managing all of it simultaneously. I guess that's good if you're ADD.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. And it's interesting. I mean, the cool part about what I do is I learn so much on the way through. So to give you an idea, though, I've just been working on facilitation training for 2 people who are going. One's in Melbourne now, one's in Sydney now. They will be delivering an hour-and-a-half workshop each simultaneously in prototyping for AI and tech and stuff like that. So that's one subject over there. And then I've just finished working with aerospace technology talk, another one over there. And then I've just finished working with someone who's speaking on millennials in the workforce into the agri sector. So that's just happened. And now I'm talking about safety, biochemical safety and such over there in the ag sector as well. And then I've got environmental sustainability somewhere else. So all of these things are rolling in my brain, which is interesting.
That's pretty epic. But so one of the things, the same way you kind of craft that for speaking, I can do around kind of content and stuff, but there's a methodology, there's a strategy, there's a whole structure and format. And you can look at whether it's a Heineken beer or trying to sell red cups here or lights there. It's the same formula of the whole thing, right? So basically you've kind of got that master stroke of like, this is my methodology, this is my zhuzh, and you go to town with it. So what do you think's the biggest value of being able to be a good public speaker? Like, what is the single thing that is just like if you're scared of, if you're watching this right now and you're scared of talking shit, you're scared to get in front of people, you're scared of, selling, is it the lack of, lost opportunities that may come? Like, what's the biggest thing for why people should potentially or think about, to be good at speaking?
There are so many reasons that go with it. I mean, that's a nice political way of answering that question.
Very political, but I'll let you have that.
Thanks, man. Thanks. The deepest one, if I go deep, because
go there.
Depth is where it's at.
Send it.
You learn so much about yourself, and in today's day and age, we're talking a lot, Brene Brown, Auntie Brene, we're talking about vulnerability, right? Going through the process of coaching is being utterly vulnerable, handing everything over and giving all of that stuff away to someone else and going, hey, like I'm at a really high level of professionalism. It took me a long time to get here. Don't rock my boat, but I'm going to expose my most vulnerable self to you right now. And what happens is, with the coaching that I do, a lot of people are going, oh my God, I didn't realize that I came across like that. Like I've always thought that I was warm and inviting and stuff. It's like, you're actually not, unconsciously, the drive that you have is coming through in a different way than what you actually want it to.
Dude.
But no one's in a position to give you that feedback.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah.
Because that's my job. And a lot of people, that's the learning they're getting is so much deeper than just giving a talk. It's the, holy shit, I didn't realize that about myself. And then the camera, obviously, you can pick it up on there and go, hey, like when you're doing this type of stuff, are you consciously aware that this is happening? And they're like, no, I've just always done that. And it's like, wow, okay. The way you speak, the words you choose to use to speak, did you know that you're actually coming across in the opposite of what you it's like, exactly right. And it's like everything you actually at your core stand for, you're not actually doing it. It's coming across the wrong way. And that's my position, is to go, hey, let's just look at that. What are you really trying to achieve with that? And it's like, well, I'm trying to achieve this. And it's like, okay, we need to make some changes there.
Dude, that's so interesting you say that. So the same way you do speaking, it happens with content, right? You can put out content on social level and it crafts a narrative, whether thought about or not thought about, that others have a perception of, whatever, right? So true. I haven't told too many people the story, but it's a true story. I was with the head of enterprise for one of New Zealand's largest companies not too long ago. It took 2 years to get the meeting. Put back, push it back. It's me verse 5 on the other side. So they come flipping, swinging it out a bit. It's like, whatever. We get into it. 20 minutes into it. Oh no, it's about 20 minutes into it. The main lady on the other side just goes, can I just stop for a second? And I was like, yeah, what's up? Like we'd obviously gone deeper. So she's like, you are absolutely nothing like what I thought you would be. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Is it good?
And I was like, what do you mean? And she literally goes to my face, dude, I just thought you some like loud millennial piece of shit that didn't know what was up. And I was like, the fact that you said that to my face, we are going to be such good homies. And we went into it, and this is something we just went into this deep meaningful, and the other guys, we just parted out. We're like, all right. And so what it was, and I totally resonate with that, because if you see the snippets from the outside, you see small little chunks of AK-47 bullets just go, right? You don't get depth.
Yeah.
And so part of the reason strategically for me for this is like, I want to have actual conversations like I actually would. And I don't want it to be a 60-second thing. I want it to be 1 hour so you can actually see how I think. Because all my relationships with people who I know in person are like this. But if you don't know me, you see that tip of the iceberg shit. So I literally, one of my slides on my keynotes is, it's a photo, it's a teal, the color teal. And I'm like, all right, see this color teal? And this is one of the first ones. And I basically go, you either flip and love this color or you hate this color. So at the end of it, we're either going to be doing high fives and selfies, or you're going to want to kick me in the face, and there's no in between. But because I've told you that up front, it's totally kosher. And everyone kind of jokes and giggles, but exactly for that thing. So I think you're so right, because as well, if you don't have context of someone's like history or past or journey to that point, what can come across, what that drive is can come across so differently. And I've got to learn that exactly what you're talking about. I've experienced that because I'm like, that wasn't my intention, but the way it's come across this, because I'm just flipping 150K down, don't give a shit, flipping sending it, stuff you, this is how we're rolling. But then from the other side, think of it, if they knew the context of like, oh, because then this is why he's shaped that way. So I think context is crucial. It's so crucial. So I'm so stoked you brought that up because, and exactly the point, I haven't got anyone I can talk to about it. It's like, who understands? You have no idea that this is how people perceive it in the same way, not necessarily just this on social, but actually around like, the way you communicate with others in the workplace, the way you talk to superiors, the way you email. Like for a while there, a lot of people thought that I was angry at them all the time because my emails were like 3 words. I'm like, yeah, bro, keen, next, shot, bro. Peace. 100% right. And they're just like, oh, I thought you were mad. Shit, I think there's a lot in there. You've hit a sweet spot there. That hits for me. So that's super cool. So, and everyone has them. They just don't see them, right? Hey.
Oh yeah, and as I said, who's going to tell them? And then who's going to tell them? And are you going to listen to that person as well, depending on who it is that's telling you? So that's where that sort of, they're paying for this feedback. So of course, and they're paying specifically for the feedback from someone who is in that field. So it's a specialist to get the feedback from, which makes it more valuable for them. But it's a lonely place to be when you're at that level, when it's like, it's just expected that you should be good at it as well, which is problematic. Like there's that, well, of course you're going to be good, of course you're going to do it, of course, and a lot of the people I'm working with don't have the time either. So that's another part of what I do, which I didn't realize would be my job. But I'm kind of like, it sounds awful, but the accountability level of what I do, just by having me booked in on a certain day for a certain time is kind of like, oh, damn. And I'm sure they do, I'm sure they look at their calendar and they're like, oh, shit, I've got that Michael guy today. And it's like, what happens with their talks is it's kind of like traditionally with me, 3 months out, someone will get told they've got a talk. It's like, oh, you've got this talk in 3 months. And then they go, oh, yeah, I've got that talk. And the date just correct. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'll get onto it. Oh, I'll get onto it. And then they phone me and they're like, Michael, I've got 4 weeks and I'm delivering this talk. And I'm like, when did you find out? And they're like, 3 months ago. I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks. So a lot of my work is kind of like, in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I need to smash this thing out. But it's the accountability of just having someone that's kind of like, hey, we're working on it today. And they're like, oh, right. And having to take an hour out to just focus on this thing that they're kind of, and what they do is they go, I've got to talk and it's fine. I've used it. And a lot of times I'll just use that talk again. They're not happy with that talk, but they've just done that so many times that they've put it off, that's just their go-to now. So my job is just to kind of hold them accountable to it. Going back, sorry. Carry.
No, you go. It's your interview, bro. I'm just intrigued. I feel like I'm stealing a bunch of. I'm learning more about myself as I'm interviewing you too. It's great.
I'll just go back to something you said before, which because I didn't answer it, which was around scalability. So the scalability for me, and a little bit of an answer is I do. My background was 20 years plus of training and development. So me being the guy standing in the front of the room. I worked traditionally, so my background originally, which is similar to yours, I was an outdoor guide. Yeah. So, based down in Methven, OPC college, living supervised guide, 16 residential students who were going through they were doing their studying as well as doing the outdoor experience. So they worked relentlessly. So I came from that. And I came through. I was also, I got into the corporate side of things, and I ended up redeveloping a coaching process for New Zealand Police and IRD and FMG, and I started training that for 5 years as well. So that was all NLP and stuff. So you've got this massive background of training and development, and me being the guy who's standing talking, and me working with these tough audiences, especially IRD, FM, and New Zealand Police. These are people who who can be a little bit resilient to training. And they don't, and supervisory, they don't really, it's kind of like you have someone come in the room and go, this is costing a lot of money, so you all have to pass. And it's like, nice adult learning setup, buddy. Thanks, man. No pressure.
Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Who let Steve in? So you've got that background, and I did that for so long. And the story of my thing is my wife said to me, a year and a bit ago, she was like, you need to be coaching, man. Like, you seriously need to just be one-on-one coaching, da-da-da. And I was like, coaching? I don't do coaching. You know, I've been with TEDx for ages and all this type of stuff. And it was like, I was being bombarded a little bit at the time by life coaches. So I was kind of like, I don't want to be a coach, you know. She ended up talking me into it, and I took it on. But there was always that background. So as I moved away, I just made this statement, and it was I don't know, 2 months ago. I did this one workshop. It was a 4-day, 4-hour. At the end of a 2 days conference, I did a 4-hour workshop, and at the end of it, I stood up and I went, "You guys have been great. I've been awesome, and even more awesome. This is the last training workshop I'm ever going to run. I'm just doing one-on-one coaching." And as fate would have it, I then was contacted by one company that said, "Can you do a group thing for us?" And I was like, no, I'm just doing one-on-one coaching. And then I had another one, and then another one, and I went, oh, okay, hang on, maybe I need to rethink this. So I created an hour and a half, a 90-minute small group coaching session. So that's the scalability there, is that so for me, you know, standing on my soapbox going, I will do it as long as it doesn't potentially destroy the integrity of the content. You know, there's me doing my thing. And I went, okay, so 90 minutes, and I have 2 offerings with it. So it can be a 30-second pitch, which we develop and do the script development and stuff like that, which can map out. You can use that same structure that I teach over there to map out a talk. And then I offer a 10 and 2 at a 90-minute as well. So the 10, you know, 10 and 2, kind of like mini picture coocher, 10 slides. It's nasty. It's so nasty. So 10 slides, 2 minutes. They auto move. Yeah. So you've got 12.5 seconds to talk to one slide. So it forces you to hone your skills down into a slide deck that has to be beautifully aligned to the 12.5. Yeah. So I'm doing those 2. So that's my scale there. I've just written a book as well, which I want to put out. It's a short instructional book on pitching for investment and speaking, and also multiple facilitation. So you know how you see co-presentation, and it's that kind of awkward bumping into each other. Oh no, here you have. So whenever someone runs an event and there's 2 people, you know, it's like, you know. Now you go, and here's the microphone, and unpracticed type of stuff where it's kind of bumpy and jumbly. So I kind of talk a bit about there as well. So you've got that, and then you've got this app thing that I'm wanting to develop as well. So there's scalability in that way.
That's cool.
But
so back to a really impressing question. If you were at Mount Hart Outdoor Pursuits, were you there around whether it was Richie from Big Owls and Bam and Glenn Curry and those crew?
Yep. So
that's epic.
Glenn, yeah.
So they were my homies growing up when I was young. So they were like, Richie was big dog to me with all those crew. So Big Owls and that whole world, and the Curry boys, and then Brandon and stuff was in the mix. And then he went into his world. You would know all those Meth and Mafia.
He was one of my students.
Classic. So when Bam started, when they started rolling with the Bam jackets on and stuff, and I was with the Cheapskates rookie team, and they were like a mini rivalry of like the Cheapskates rookies versus the Bam gang. But it was always love. That's so awesome. So you'll know all my early days crew. Yeah, man. Yeah. They were funny times down there. I was there for 2.5 years. So yeah, Braden Curry was, I think they were my last students before I left. So yeah. That's so rad. Good. And he's gone on to do Red Bull running amazingness. I was on a plane. I hadn't seen him in like 15 or 20 years. I'm on a plane. I think I was going from, I might have been going to LA or somewhere. And Brandon walks on, was like, what are you up to? He's like, oh, I'm going to China. I'm like, what? It was so epic. So I'm pumped for him.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. Who is the greatest speaker that you have ever seen speak live that just mic dropped the shit out of it? Your mouth was shut. You didn't have anything to say. He just shut the shit down, or he or she shut the shit down. Who is the greatest speaker you've ever seen?
So I knew you'd ask this question.
I just made up a then because I was just wondering. I bet you know you've seen everything and everyone. So who's the GOAT?
So not live. It's not live. I would like to see it live, but I have favorite talks, and I have a kind of weird taste, right? I've got favorite talks for different reasons. But so sometimes it's not about delivery. Actually, sometimes it's actually kind of a very average delivery. So average delivery, but incredible message would be Alain de Botton, the founder of the School of Life, when he did his 22-minute talk to Google, employees of Google, on the great subject of why you will marry the wrong person. Incredible talk. So he talks about, so he's a modern day philosopher, right? And he talks about early childhood attachment theory and why naturally you will be, because of the way you were raised, your parents traumatized you because they loved you. So you will naturally, like, I'm only doing this because I love you. So you then associate love. This is his talk. You associate love with suffering. So when you become an adult, you will go out and seek someone who will make you suffer the way that your parents made you suffer to show you that they loved you. It's just an amazing talk. I mean, he does such...
He goes deep.
Yeah. He goes deep. And it's to Google, so they're all A-type, like... and he's just ripping them, like... Rrr. So that's one. So that's one of my favorites. But like I say, it's content. The delivery, he's just got his notes, and he's kind of like, talking away. My favorite of all favorites, though, is Ted Med, and it is pediatrician Nadine Burke-Harris. I would recommend it to everyone in New Zealand, especially if you're in the counselling or health profession, mental health profession. She gets on stage and she roars, like she just rips the stage to pieces for 18 full minutes, and she is talking about adverse childhood experience. So she talks about, she's a massive advocate for adverse childhood experience in the US, and she kind of gives a really good detail around the origins of the studies and where they came from and what they mean for us. And then she talks about how displeased she is that the fact that this hasn't been taken and been pretty much just like, this should be on the news everywhere in the world, that this adverse childhood experience is the modern day plague that we're actually dealing with. But she just hammers it. Like, she knows exactly what she's going to say, and she's kind of like that cross between passion and raw anger. She's just like,
that's a dangerous combo. I love it.
It's beautiful. I would highly recommend it. Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, pediatrician, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. I think it's childhood trauma across a lifetime is the one. You can find it on TED Med.
TED Med. We're going to have to put some links to those two to actually check them out for sure.
Yeah.
So you go.
There's a bunch that I have. So normally when I work with people, I'll just share kind of like my top 5. And some of those will be one is a Swedish guy who talks about the chemical brain release for storyline. So like what happens to your brain when you're actually speaking. So like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, how they're released and what part of your stories are actually helping release it. So I often send that out in advance. So people sort of get a bit of a higher education of like, oh, wow, oh, this is interesting. Telling stories, why it's important to tell them, And obviously, if you're constantly talking like this, then you're releasing stress hormones in your audience, which means that they're releasing negative chemicals, and they're coming away from your talk feeling drained and empty, as opposed to releasing. So when I talk to, So when I talk about that pattern of like, you know, this might be where you're releasing oxytocin or serotonin, and it's part of your story. And you might be also releasing down in the trough here. You might be getting them to release cortisol. You might do it intentionally, but you can't hold them in a cortisol release for too long because they'll feel drained and empty. You have to bring them back up with something lighter to release the oxytocin and make them feel good. You know,
it sounds like you're describing a wine.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, that's the thing, right? A speaker literally has that power to through resonance, you know, resonant frequency. If they can get people literally in tune to their brainwaves through their entire physiology, through every little tool that they can use, those people will literally be mimicking their emotions through their talk. Which is what TV does so well. Yeah, and that's a really congruent talk. You know, really congruent, a really powerful congruent talk.
What does congruent mean?
So easiest way is this is incongruent, where things are unaligned, and congruent is where they are aligned. Yeah. Right. Yep. So alignment for that talk would be the script development, the words, the storyline, these things are working for you. So you've heard of auditory monotone, right? So auditory monotone, where I'm speaking.
Shitty Kardashians, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever it is I'm speaking, and it might even be a high monotone. So it might be an excited tone where it's just they constantly stay in that really high place, and and it doesn't matter. You still get bored with it. You know, it's kind of like, oh my god, turn it off. Or you've got the mid-range of audio of monotone where a person just stays on that tone.
Was the lag, and here we are today, and really appreciate the talk.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So there's no contrast. So I've coined a phrase which is emotional monotone. So you can tell a story and your emotions stay monotone. You don't take the audience down because you're too scared. You don't take them up because you're too scared, or you don't even know how. You just give information, and it's just a mono-emotional talk. And
you're talking about like a lawyer's
emotion. What?
Lawyers and accountants. I've been to one and it was popping. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been to two. I thought it would be shithouse, and I was so wrong, and it was popping. So I give the accountants way more props than people do, because they're not so drain fest as I potentially thought some of them were. But I've been to one and it is banging.
I've heard some good. I've heard a good story about one in Christchurch actually, who he did an hour and a half keynote, and apparently it was really good. So yeah, I think there's, you know, the molds are getting broken. But what I'm getting at there is that we have there's a guy I love to talk about this guy. He's a zoologist, and his name, as soon as I try and think of it, it escapes me. It'll come to me. But he spent 8 years. He travelled to over, I can't remember, like 60-something odd countries, and he studied human physiology, especially around facial expressions. He identified over 3,000 unique facial expressions that we have.
Really?
And yeah, over 3,000. And what he did is he went, well, that's a lot, right? And he went, well, so what are the universal facial expressions that we can recognize across the globe? And doesn't matter what culture, we can recognize those. So happiness, sadness, joy, surprise, fear. So there are 7, right?
Anger.
So when you're structured, anger, frustration, and contempt.
What does that mean?
So
it's like jealousy.
Contempt is kind of
like drain.
Contempt is hard to describe, even harder to actually emulate. But so when you're doing storyline creation or a talk creation, what you're trying to do with all those stories is you're trying to evoke in yourself, through your story, as many of those 7 universal facial expressions as you can. Because what happens is it's literally storytelling. But what happens is when you're telling that story, you know, it's like, oh, it was a tragic time. I was really sad. And because you're feeling it, they see your emotion. They mimic it, because that's what we're made to do. They mimic it, and then they feel that experience with you. So if you can engage at least as many of those 7 key facial expressions into your talks through your storyline creations, you will evoke emotion in your audience.
So the key is to have more eyebrows.
And our wrinkle lines are really good, like really good.
I got some banger wrinkles. So I think the point there is, I think you're right though, is that authentic vulnerability, right? It's something I talk about a bit, but I think it's definitely a thing. Back to your point before, the greatest you've seen, the greatest I've ever seen, Willie Appiata.
Yeah.
Like he was definitely monotone and he was definitely mellow and thing, but maybe it was just more like the dude walked in the room and the whole place was just like, you could feel his energy. Like I've never felt, it was like Oprah rolled in or some shit, or Jay-Z just walked through. It was, I've never seen an aura. I've never felt an aura off one human like that ever in my life, ever.
Yeah.
Like Billy T. James would have got it if I was like 5, and Willie Appiata had it like a couple of years ago. It was so powerful. And I've never, people talk about the power of someone walking into a room. Like I've always seen like corporate business power of like, I'm going to swing this around a bit because someone's a CEO trying to zhuzh it up, but never just someone that rolled in and it's just like, dude. And so I think, there's probably a lot to be learned for many speakers if they want to do it, from just how presence, right? Presence.
Yeah. Presence. Yeah. So there's a calmness, an unsettling calmness. Yeah. Which you're, and I think a little bit of history, knowing a person's history a little bit in advance too, is kind of like, this person's seen a lot, it's kind of like, I'm looking forward to this. And
you go,
which is kind of it's kind of the persuasion, right? It's kind of like you're going in there going, whatever happens in here, it's going to be pretty damn good, and you're like, and then this person rolls out and they're just like, woo, woo. You are just going, oh yeah. And what it is this, there's actually a really cool talk, which I forgot about, which is, it's a TED talk, why we should practice being more inauthentic, which sounds really bad, I know.
Sounds horrible, but go on.
I would check it out. So it's an incredible talk for what we're talking about. Is so authentic. So he gets at it from the point of authentic would be, I kind of feel like shit today. I can't be bothered doing this. I'd rather not do that. So I'm just going to be authentically me. So his is, well, if you're feeling like that, but you're rolling into a thing where you've got to do the business, well, you need to actually be inauthentic. You've got to put that stuff to the side. So he gave this really cool example in his talk where he was like, he goes from just being big and he's smiling, he's done brain-based science around influence and all this type of stuff and evolutionary biology and all this thing. He's written heaps of books and he walks out there and he just smiles and he's like, I love this stuff, like because of all of this, if you like me right now, you're cherry picking it doesn't matter what I'm saying. You're just cherry picking the things that help you agree with why you like me. And in the same way, if I walked out here and you didn't like me, I could be saying the greatest talk ever, but you would be cherry picking all the things that would confirm for you why you don't like me. And that's the power of liking, right? And the impact. So he goes through and he gives all of this information, and then he just turns the whole talk on his head, and he goes, so if I was being my authentic self, and his tone just comes right down, and he starts pointing at the audience, and he's like, and he turns side onto them, and he starts looking at the ground, and he's just pacing backwards and forwards. He's giving all the signals for aggressive behavior, right? And he's like, if I was being my authentic self, I wouldn't even be here. I mean, I've given 2 of these talks already today, and who are you? And he starts stuttering. He's like, and who are you? Who are you to judge me? I mean, I've written 2 books, blah, blah, and he just keeps going. And then he gets really close and he's like, so how much do you like me now? And then he just steps back and he's like, and he just smiles again and opens his arms. And the whole audience is just like, oh my God. And he's like, this is the thing about why we need to be more inauthentic. And he said, because it was the lead in for the TED, right? Which was, in this room, you may have picked people that you already feel you don't like. But you be anything but authentic. Go and talk to those people, because your authentic self has made decisions, and that's evolutionary biology has said, you know, that person might be bad, but that's your biology doing it. Go out there and risk it and be less authentic, and go up to those people and find out and talk to them.
Well,
so that was the essence of his talk.
What was it called? I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
Find it. What was it called?
So it's a TED talk, and it's why we need to practice being more inauthentic.
Okay. Why we need to practice to be inauthentic. Here you go.
Being more inauthentic, yeah. Fantastic. Like the title just goes against everything that we, you know, that we currently talk about. You've got to be more authentic. And it's like the way he does it though, from his background in biology, is just incredible.
Smart.
And it makes so much sense. I think his key point though was like there are 4 key areas. One is liking. You know, these are the automatic responses within that 30 seconds. Liking, disliking, potential mate, and the 4th one was disconnected, like nothing. You know, as in when I'm talking, you're just going to hear wah, 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 wah. And it's like anything but that. That's what we're looking for, is anything but that, just disconnected part of it. So a really nice talk though. Again, one of my favorites.
I've just found it. It's Mark Bowden at TEDx Toronto.
Oh, TEDx Toronto. There you go.
TEDx Toronto.
So
the importance of being inauthentic, from about 2013. Yeah. I'll see it in a bit.
Perfect.
That's
a grossly underwatched talk, by the way. You'll see the views on it. It's quite underwatched. I'm gonna sense check something, because I'm gonna put a post up on LinkedIn and basically say, you know, if you could upload 20 minutes of you talking to somewhere to get feedback from a world-class speaking coach, would you want to upload it to a Dropbox and get feedback, and how much would you pay for it? Because I feel a JV coming on. Nice. I'm going to turn the light on. I think it's doable. There we go. I think it's definitely doable, but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take this offline, but I've had some thoughts. So if I wanted to, now being totally selfish, so part of the reason that I'm wanting to do this is I really, really get intrigued looking into other people's lives and their worlds and their industries and their ecosystem, and I call it story behind the story. Like, I really enjoy figuring out, like, what are those key hooks that pivot to get to moments, right? And like, how does the headspace get to this sort of thing? So I'm really intrigued with that. And so with, you know, LinkedIn Live, like, you know, this is the world's first daily live business show that's going on. You know, I got in first because obviously we're in and lucky, but I'm like, I want to do thousands of these. Like, I want to literally every day, I want to talk to people, I want to learn. Like, I love going wide. If there was some feedback, how I could even do, not necessarily speaking, I guess speaking is a very different thing, but like, how could other people interviewing or other people wanting to try and learn from others better with communication, like, what's some stuff that potentially I could look to try and hone up on or think about or do? Because obviously I just freestyle shit, but I'm keen for some potential feedback so I can do this better. So the better I get, the better answers I get, so the more value for everyone. It's kind of like share, learn, repeat. Or learn, share, repeat. So I'm keen for your thoughts of how I could approach this from a strategic angle to try and be the best to make this as good as possible.
Okay. So on the, I love the freestyling for one. Like, I love it. It's really good. And what I did obviously is because the thing a speaker coach loves most is live interviews.
Really?
Oh, wow. Well, of course they don't. It's like, I could have written a damn script for this. You know what I mean? It's like the perfectionist going, oh my God, it's going to be alive. So, but I love it. So I love it. And the reason I love it is because I did some research and I watched some of your other videos first. And it's actually pretty cool. Yeah. It's legit. I'm really comfortable. So and your delivery and all that is fantastic. It's engaging. It's nice. It's comfortable. You have that little lead in, which is good.
I tried
where we get to,
I've got a little script.
Yeah. But the lead in, that 10 minutes just before to go, hey, how you doing? That's a nice ad, which helps smooth the transition a little bit. the area is that knowing who's coming in advance. That's the area that's kind of like, you know, I'd love to know. I'd love to see who's coming, so I can sort of like, on this date I can put it in my calendar. But what happens is I get these pop-ups that are like, it's live now, and I'm like, god damn it, I can't. I'm busy, you know. So that would be my thing. Would be like, I want to. It'd be nice to sort of be able to put it in my calendar.
So do you want the good news or the bad news about that?
Both.
So the good news is I'm already booked for another month. I'm 20. This is 22. I'm already booked 30 deep. The bad news is the tech is so unreliable for being able to go live on time that it is a flippin' shit show. So I don't want to publicly say, hey, I'm going to literally we've done it. We've crafted up templates to be like live at 4, checking with so and so, and but literally, say perfect example was last night's one from 3:50 to 5 o'clock. It was 70 minutes of technical issues, and we didn't go live. And then I had to freestyle and do another one because of it. So I don't want to ever say that I'm going to go once and not be there and have everyone pissed. So I kind of want. I'm 100% with you, like without a doubt, like 100%. But apart from that, what else can we do to make it better?
You know how it is. So. It's going to be the other end, the technical, like what equipment does the other end have, and you have no control over that either. Outside of like, can we send out, you know, like cameras and stuff to people? But I don't know. I mean, you're out in the lead with this thing. You know, you're kind of killing it. So
I'm freestyling.
Just do what you're doing. It works. Are these recorded? That would be a question I have.
Yeah. So the next step of what I'm thinking, it's funny because most of these just end up talking to like as if we were just having a chat and I'm just talking shit anyway. So my strategy with it is literally cool. Now we've got long form depth and lots of epic snippets in the middle. How can we get some polished curated journalism to take those into multiple formats of either, you know, quotes, mini micro snippets come down, articles that come out of it, and really sort of beef those out, and also the podcast version to go to. So that's going to take some thing, but already we're probably sitting on almost 30 hours of like awesomeness, and I know there's going to be thousands more of it. I just want to like get in first, keep proving the consistency regardless, with no sponsors, no background, nothing, me just flipping doing it. Because I know the day that comes that someone can manage the cameras, the lights, this bullshit, everything else, and I can just do my thing, is going to be so good. But it's I'm always intrigued with it, but I'm definitely intrigued about the potential thing for clients. So I've got some ideas. We can take this live after that. So before we finish, we got to go through. I don't know if you've seen much of the other stuff. We do a thing called the final 15 different words that all start with the letter F, and on each different word come up with a lesson or a life learning or something you believe. It can be one word, it can be whatever you want, but what you feel about it. So this is the final 15 with Michael Philpott, New Zealand's #1 speaker coach. Ready to rumble, and the first word is family.
Create healthy boundaries, adult to adult, not adult to child.
Jump there for a second. What does that mean? That sounds really smart.
I thought these were supposed to be like...
Hey, look, if I just make the rules up, the rules morph like the conversation does. So go there. What does that mean?
Okay, so most relationships with families are adult to child. It doesn't matter how old you are, you'll always be my little child. And it's like, okay, cool. So step away and have some time and establish adult to adult healthy communication channels from not adult to child anymore. For you to grow into a fully grown, healthy adult, you need to have adult to adult relationships with everyone. And parents shouldn't be excluded from that. And the reason being is there are things that you need to talk about with your parents at some stage to understand yourself better. And as long as you're adult to child, they won't feel comfortable to share it with you. It needs to be adult to adult. And that requires healthy boundaries.
Dude, that's one of the... It's flipping solid, dude. Okay, next one, friendship.
My wife. That's it. That's all I got for you, man. My wife tonight. my wife is, like my best friend. She comes first before everything and everyone else.
It's cool as well that she helps support you to make the jump to your own stuff too, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Next one, finance.
Yeah, stay on top of that. Finance. Look for those ways. Find your niche within what you do. Be damn good at it. Be the best at it, and the money will come. You know, like money doesn't generate stuff. You need it, but find your real passion piece, and just own that space. As in dominate, kill that space. It's yours.
Love it.
You'll know when you hit the right one.
Fun.
Not getting enough of it, you know, like I'd like to get more in the non-work environment, but fun for me in my business stuff that I do. So how I do my job well is to make sure that there's a balance between the seriousness of my role and then the fun part as well. Learning and applying that learning often happens through two channels. One is fear and one is fun. Let's go for the fun rather than the fear.
Nice. Faith.
Whatever works for you, find your thing. For me, it's faith in yourself first, and everything comes from it. Faith in what you're doing, and never give up.
Freedom.
There is a great freedom in going deep, like digging deep within yourself and finding those areas that scare the shit out of you. There is freedom from the limits that you put on yourself by going there.
Fashion.
Got to have it.
Failure.
Oh man,
Sorry.
I love. It's all about the shoes, man. I've got some cool boat shoes on right now. I love fashion. In a former life, I used to be a hairdresser, so you know, I'm all about the fashion.
Failure.
Oh. Failure is an interesting one, you know. Like, there's no cheese. It's going to sound cheesy, but I've had so many things you might consider failures, but they're not. They're just versions of myself that weren't yet ready to be in the position I'm in right now. The person then didn't know what the person now knows, and it needed to go through those experiences to learn them to become who I am today.
Food.
I fill it is for dinner, and I'm a cook. I love cooking, and I'm starting to get hungry, and I'm looking forward to food. Food is fuel. Do good with your food. Your food will do good with you.
Focus.
There's a quote that I had for a long time, which I started to live by in the transition from training and development into coaching specifically, which was do less and obsess. And I still live by it now. Do less and obsess. Just, again, pick that one thing and just dominate that one thing. Make it your own. Own it. Do less and obsess.
I really like that. Fear.
Physiologically, the only difference between fear and excitement is our response to it. There you go.
Fitness.
Yeah, I need a bit more of that in my life. Work-life balance. I'm still working on the work-life balance. I love what I do. I do know that I need to get out and do a bit more. The fitness, though, for me, honestly, because of my competitiveness, I have to be careful of what I choose for my fitness. That I actually derive pleasure from my fitness rather than make fitness a unattainable goal that I keep striving for and get disappointment from. So, for example, I used to be heavily into rock climbing, and rock climbing goes in grades. And if you injure yourself or you get sick, you drop your grades. And I used to feel bad about the fact that I dropped my grades, and then I'd push harder and I'd injure myself. And it was just a self-competing thing, which instead of going climbing, I was constantly trying to be better and better and better. Whereas now I'm back into my scuba diving with my wife, and scuba diving is not really competitive. You know, it's kind of like, oh, how long can you whatever for it? So it's not like that. So it's a really passive. It's a physical sport, but it doesn't bring out that competitiveness in me. So I can actually enjoy it. and it's a nice way to shut off all the noise of the world around me as well.
Fame.
15 minutes of it. Everyone's got to have some. I think fame is cool. You know, like I'm just trying to step into a bit of that fame myself right now, and to kind of really find that bigger, truer part of yourself. I'm gauging. I have a gauge, and if I write something and about myself and I read it and I go, oh, that sounds kind of arrogant. And it's like, then it's going to be perfect, because I have a low level of, you know, because of my personal history, I have a low level of self-esteem. So obviously, whenever I say something good about myself, it's naturally going to feel like I'm being a bit of a dick. So if I push it to the point where it sounds arrogant to me, it's probably where it needs to be. And I just have to go with that and go, yep, if it sounds bad, then it's perfect. But it's still gauging that I'm not being a dick. But, you know, just being okay with pushing yourself for that fame.
Feelings.
Oh, that's a big one. Let's just go with start expressing them more. You know, like your fame and all those things are attached to your ability to share those feelings and to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to become comfortable with your feelings. You can't expect, you know, this is the thing in the world we're experiencing today is you have a level that you're willing to go to, and you need to push your level further if you want people to be more open with you about how they feel about things. And it only comes from you first. So you have to get in touch and experience and explore your own feelings a bit more.
And finally, for the final 15 with Michael Philpott, future.
Unlimited and just awesome. You know, like finally finding the place to be in, it just feels good. When you finally find that groove, the future is just like, whew, it's exciting, very exciting about the future. For me and for everything that's going on in the world around us at the moment, there's so many cool things happening.
Very cool. This has been awesome, man. I really I've learned a lot, listened to a lot, dug a bunch deeper in a bunch of stuff, and it's quite interesting when you talk like of the strategy of that people are either in this space, especially with your stuff, what actually the drivers behind it and all the rest of it. So it's been really interesting. If people have been stoked on what they've heard, they want to engage with you, they want to bro down, slide up in the DMs, get in the mix with whatever you got going on, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they go to? What can they do to be able to link up with you? So feel free to put your plug in right about now.
Cool. So standard type of stuff, Instagram, at the Speaker Coach. Just at the Speaker Coach. And then www.smartandwise.co.nz is our website. The cool thing is, and I'll give this offering to everyone. So on our website, when you pop it up, there's a banner will pop up on the top, and it has a download me. I'm a free speaker coaching resource. So I created this 9-page resource a while ago, and it's just my download of like 12 NLP, neuro-linguistic speaker coaching tips. And then there's the case study in there on Lilia Taura and her TED talk and how we got her prepared for that. So there's a whole bunch of information there, which is free. Grab that. On there as well, if you want to know more about what I do, there's an info pack as well, which kind of has a lot of info around my pricing and stuff like that and how I work. But I mean, I'm very humanistic. Just send me a message, you know, like, hey, what's up? And if you're in Christchurch, catch me up for a coffee and have a chat about what you're up to. And we can see if you need my help or if I can point you in the right direction. I kind of like to connect people. That's my thing. So if I can't help you, I'll certainly point you in the right direction of someone that might be able to help you out as well. So, and Facebook, of course, as well.
Yeah,
at the Speaker Coach.
Get on the facey. No, this has been awesome, and I really appreciate your time. Obviously, you're in a lane that pretty much everyone that does anything in business or just in life needs to be able to understand how to speak to others, how to communicate. And when it's about story, it's about, you know, like resonating with anyone of all sorts to go through all those stuff. So I kind of even just hearing some of the, whether it's psychological stuff or emotional or any of the bits and pieces behind all that stuff has been really intriguing. So congratulations on all the success and awesomeness that you've been got going on. And it's been really, really cool talking to you. So thanks heaps for the time and joining us today, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been awesome. It's kind of reversed because normally I'm the one asking all the questions. So I feel a little bit neglectful. I feel a little bit weird. I've actually got some questions written down.
You
and
don't.
It's like, no, I do. I'm like,
okay, go.
Let's
knock him out real quick. Let's do it, and then we'll get out of here.
If
you've done
movie,
just quickly. So I reached out to interview you. You watched a bunch of my shit, and then you wrote questions for me. Okay, go.
Yeah.
Go. So,
are you a movie person?
Not really, but the couple that I watch are bangers, and I need movies to mean a lot to me, so they've moved me. Movies need to move me.
Even better then. What are your favorite movies?
Amistad, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Sound of Music, and that's it. Amistad was the shit. Amistad and Inception.
I haven't heard of Amistad.
Yeah, Google it.
Of course, Inception.
Yeah, Inception, just because Inception with the multi-layers. Like, I absolutely love chess.
Tell me the answer, the end of Inception. What's the deal? In your mind? Like, is it spinning? Is he stuck in there? What's the deal?
I see it wobble just a bit on that last frame, so that's real. I saw the wobble. I did.
You did. Nice.
But I just love, and the bit I love the most about all of that is in the behind the scenes of it. It showed him how he had a one pager of how it would be structured, and it was a visual representation of how he saw the movie working, going down in layers. And because I play chess and I love chess and I love strategy and thinking on thinking, I was just like, that is the dopest shit out, because I'm always just like long game. It's like, crafting position. So yeah, so just that it has to move me, or I just don't give a shit. And the other one's just. Like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, like when I was like young buck, and Sound of Music and shit, just all time. Like, it sounds super weird, but that's my shit.
Are they attached to a specific emotional type for you? Those the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and the Sound of Music?
No, but I'm also like kind of OCD, and I need like routine and repetitive stuff. And then when I was young, I remember I would just always watch those two, and I love like the energy and like happiness of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and like the imagination of things being able to like creation. And then Sound of Music was like the escapism. There was like race and culture and family and just, I don't know, it sounds super weird, but like literally like those three are like bangers for me.
Do you watch them as an adult?
No, but I can still pretty much see them in my head. I can play it out, and I feel joy thinking about those movies. That's why media can move. Yeah, that's why I love media that moves.
Yeah. No, agree. Cat or dog?
Dog, dude. Like, I flew when I heard my dog was sick. I flew half around the world that day. When I was in another country, I flew from New Zealand to America. I left that night.
What kind of dog?
Black lab, Nelly. Best dog ever. Her and Harley. Labs and beagles.
Yeah.
Like I did it like literally. I got a call at 9 a.m. Me and wifey on a plane that night. Flew back to the States to be with our dog. Like, I would seriously have to think twice about whether I would save a dog or a human if they were drowning. Like, I love animals that much. Like, honestly, like I'd go to war for a dog.
Yeah. Let's not do word association then.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
coming on 8 years, together for 10.
Oh, dude. High five. Me too. Marriage is the best thing ever, yeah?
It is. We had 2 years a long distance, last 2 years with kids. It's crazy, it's gnarly, but it's pretty epic.
Yeah. It's getting old fashioned, but it's so worth it. I've got more questions.
No, go knock it out. The fact that you literally did this, I give so much props for, because it's like, who does that? I feel I'm not. It's just so classic. Like, I'm trying to interview you, and then we do that, and then you've got questions about. Yeah, continue.
Okay. This is a controversial question, and I thought I'd pose it to you.
Nothing better than doing it live.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I need to get my whiskey? I'll go get the whiskey out.
Yeah. Shall I just text message it to you first? It's an area that I would like to see development on in New Zealand. So unpaid conference speakers in New Zealand.
Oh,
what do you thought?
Dude.
There you go.
Oh, I don't even know. I could go on a massive vent right now, but I will tell you one quick story. And the story goes like this.
Okay.
I'll tell you two stories. Story number one, about 5 years ago, I was on the come up, and someone reached out to me that was running an event. I was like, hey, doing this thing around content media, potentially love to get involved. I was like, yeah, man, like I'd love to be able to change, but the future change of going from, into the digital landscape, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, cool. All right, sweet. We'll send you an info pack. I'd love to get you in the mix. 100%. Let's block you in the spot. I was like, yeah, sounds great. Happy to do it. Get an email. Congratulations. Happy to offer you a silver package for speaking, and it will be $13,000. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah, because the audience, you're going to get the opportunity to be able to speak to this group of CEOs and executives and marketing managers and things. This is really valuable time. This is a discounted rate for this silver package. And
I
was
wanted
like,
you to pay.
No. So I was like, so to be clear, $2,500 for a ticket to this thing. Then you're charging me to come and talk to them. Are you shitting me? And like, no. Okay. And so this is a very big organization that does a whole lot of it. And I was like, you pieces of shit, stuff you guys. You totally exploiting everyone. You're charging on both ends. You're not adding no value whatsoever. This is exploitation. And it's actual. If I pay $2,500 for a ticket, I want the best content of my life, not someone to then bid for it on the other side for my attention to then go and sell me shit. Stuff you. I'm like so fuming on that. Like, just
that's shit. That's the first time I've heard of that. So that's kind of cool. Thank you.
Hustle.
Yeah. So I don't feel so bad. I don't feel so bad for the unpaid speakers now because at least they're not having to pay to speak. Yeah.
So then there's a flip side to it, right?
Yeah, of course.
The other side would be if I'm a young buck on the come up that wants to get exposure and get my name out there, fine. Do you, sweet. I think of it, it's stuff the speaker, stuff the audience. It's about the value of if you are speaking, you should be adding value and presenting back to them. Is there enough substance in what you're going to say that then is going to be worth it to that audience? If it's not, you shouldn't be on the stage. I don't care if you're getting paid or not. I don't care what the commercial relationships or transactions are behind that. If you are at the front, it needs to be value out. Nothing else should matter. So then there's this whole thing around, some Muppet went online saying about, if you've been asked to speak, don't expect this and don't do that and don't ask, and basically had this rant off. And it was just like, dude, stuff you. But in a nutshell, for me, I just kind of feel if you're charging flipping $1,000 a ticket and not paying your presenters, you're a piece of shit. Stuff you. If you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars off other people's IP, you can get stuffed. You can totally get stuffed. Yeah. I am so adamant. It was like, especially if it's a business based around that, it's like, pay the speakers. That is the talent. It's like college football in America. Let's roll them out. Let's do that shit. Now it's different if it's like for the love, right? It's different for the love and it's different for a community. It's different. There's lots of different things. But if your entity is about exploiting from both ends and not actually asking what the value is that's coming back, stuff you. Like, I'm like, stuff you.
It's agreed.
Sorry for the vent. Sorry for the vent.
No, the vent's good. And this is my passion piece around here. And my thoughts around it are if you're going to do unpaid, and there are situations where it is kind of it is exposure, you're coming up, and I thought what would be a fair return, and this is my own plug, right? But how about a free hour of coaching with New Zealand's #1 speaker coach? How about instead if you're not going to pay them, at least give them, and it doesn't.
Why can't they pay them? They run a budget. They're getting paid to run it. Every speaker that's doing shit like that should be paid. Like no, I just kind of don't.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I do so much shit for free. Like I do a lot for free. If it's social or charity or schools or community or any of that stuff, I'm down. But if it is transactional and there's profit on the other end, every single person that touches that stage should be paid, in my opinion.
Yeah,
100%.
Agreed. And for the ones that are the other end of what you just said, you know, how cool would it be to give something back to them? And if they are wanting to come up in it, give them something of relevance to what they're trying to achieve. So maybe give them a session at Toastmasters or, you know, National Speakers Association, or give them something that helps them build that, if that's what they're wanting to build. If it's that mutually agreed upon, they're not profiting from it, then give them something to help them. That was my thought with it.
So I got that. You go.
The other part being there is that they can also get a bit of quality assurance on both sides as well. They were my thoughts for it.
I literally got to the point where I had whiteboarded out a session to destroy their business, where all I was going to do is pick the leaders in every different vertical and do a JV opportunity and say, look, we're the engine behind you to actually operate these businesses. You get the split of it. You curate the speakers so you know the content's got to be good, and then you get the slice of revenue. Why is this middle, that's someone that's not doing shit, that's flipping sitting there exploiting both ends? Because at the end of the day, that devalues the industry. Because what happens is the people that are paying there aren't getting the best value for their buck. Let's say if we talk about education and we said, cool, Claire Amos and Francis Valentine, you pretty much know more than flipping anyone. So why wouldn't we do if Claire Amos and Francis Valentine decided to do their own flipping education summit, every single person would go and pay $1,000, $2,000 for that. So if you were to do that in each different vertical, health, media, flipping telco, transportation, food and beverage, anything, with the actual leaders that ran it with a JV split, flipping done. So what I was going to do is say, all right, I'm going to create, you know, New Zealand Events Co. or whatever. I partner with all my homies that know their own lane, those niches, and we JV it. Yeah. We do the noise, they do the curation, done. But I just, you know, I'm not going to start a business purely out of spite, but if someone's listening to this that wants to holler, hit me up. I'll take 10%. I'll sit on the board, and then I'm happy to help.
I think you're on a winner there. I'm shocked to hear that your story though around that. I hadn't heard that. I'd heard something similar, but for a different industry, you know, but not paying to be a speaker.
This is the template. That's the template.
$2.5 grand for a ticket, and the speakers are paying to be there. I get it. I get it for those ones where they're literally just selling from the stage, you know, which is kind of icky anyway. But,
ethically, it's wrong.
I mean,
I think about if you are paying to go to this thing, you should flip and be getting the best value.
Yeah, and the thing being is, it's the audience that are the ones that actually. They dictate how this runs, right? So if you don't turn up and pay your money, then that thing doesn't work. So the audience are the people with the power. The power lies in the hands of the audience, the people who are the ticket payers, and they're the ones that need to be demanding more.
Okay, so I might let's do a secondary thing. How about I hypothetically send an email out to my 12 friends in 12 different verticals who potentially could put on their own event. You then can come through as the consultant to can craft and raise up all the speakers for it. And they'll talk to a certain place that has a new location that might be getting built to be able to potentially house it in there as a series. Let's take that conversation offline. 100%. Like, because let's do that. I feel personally that if New Zealand gets exposed and New Zealand's economy learn so much from these conferences that they are huge moments for our GDP, for the economy to do better. If the level of what the content that comes out of it gets elevated to real good thinking, that's going to take better thinking back to business, which is going to make New Zealand better. So in some ways, to make New Zealand better, maybe we should stuff other Muppets. But if someone's watching this and wants to have a chat, maybe we'll have a chat. So anyway, sorry, next question. Yeah. I feel like I'm just totally venting now, but I'm so passionate about it because it's wrong. It's flipping wrong. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And for me, I've always summarized that with just expect more. You know, like if you do give feedback to these things, give feedback on it. You know, because the consumer drives the market. So expect more, expect better. They were my questions. because then I was running out of time, and I had to make my little cup of fruit tea that my wife is making me drink.
There you go. I felt like actually, if you think about the energy, we've had a great pick me up to the finish there. If you think of that little hype up, happy with that?
Okay. So I'll pick you up one more.
Go.
So there's this. I'll ask you one more question.
Go for it.
And it's an improv question, and it comes from something that you might want to research, which is really cool. So there was a scientist who studied how to build intrapersonal closeness between two people, and they studied it in the US. And they formulated 36 questions which are stacked in an order that build in intensity over time. It takes about 90 minutes to back and forth. Jeez. So each person. So I would start and I would ask you a question. The first question might be something like, of anyone living or dead, who would you have as a dinner guest and why? So it's a nice easy entry, and then you would answer it, and then you would ask me back, and I would answer it. Now it's your turn to go, and you ask question number 2.
Two-part.
So have there you go. So have a look, check out those. So they're called the 36 questions that lead to interpersonal closeness, and they're intense. But I'm going to ask you a question so we can end on a nice.
Go for it.
Let's get rid.
Was that the 36 questions that what lead to what?
Lead to interpersonal closeness.
Cool. Yep. Go for it. Yep. Go
so I'll ask you a question on the list, which would be around about number 12 or 14, and this is so we can get a release of oxytocin at the end. Are you ready?
You've done more research and questions than I have, and you've come and I've been talking shit for like an hour 40, and then you come through with plan, structure, timing, and the script in the last 5. Fuck. Go for it. Question 14.
Question 14 to end for Robett. Robett is, what roles do love and affection play in your life?
Love and affection. My brain instantly goes to passion and commitment. Passion for what you're doing and the commitment to follow through on it. Yeah, and everything's always energy for me. So mine's like, passion, passion and commitment. Because I'm at a stage where if I want to mess with, if I'm somewhere, I am there by choice.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm in and I want to be here. I want to be having this conversation with you. I want to be like doing this shit. This is where I'm choosing to spend my time. I could be a lot of places doing a lot of shit. This is my thing. And then just the commitment of what that either means for you to be able to have success either personally or professionally. That's where my brain went to. The other one was, if you were two animals combined, what would it be? And instantly mine was a Labrador and a lion. Super mellow, I'll eat food, I'm chill and loyal as shit, but then I'll roar and bite your face off.
and there's our end.
Awesome. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in, checking it out. This has been Robett Live episode number 22 with Michael Philpott. Thanks so much for tuning everyone. Sorry we didn't schedule it in, but we didn't know if the tech was going to work or not. But when the tech gets better, we shall get better with it and be on time. So enjoy the day, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Michael, for the epic chat, talking about a whole bunch of stuff. If you're wanting to link through, that is the importance of being inauthentic, Mark Bowden's talk at TED Talk, and then the 36 questions that lead to interpersonal closeness, which you can do as well. Appreciate it, everyone. Thanks so much, brother. And I shall be talking to you